Big aloha. I'm Cindy Palos, Reverend Dr. Cindy Palos, and this is Metaphysical Insights. And I'm very, very happy to have a very special guest and friend, Dr. Regina Dekker on. Regina, I can hear you.
I'm doing great. How are you? Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on because I was just beginning to say how I found a Dr. Masters when I was about 13 years old, when my mother was looking for answers about whether there's life after death. And I was blessed to be able to get his message that you can go inside and have a direct connection to God, which changed my life. And I know you've been studying for a while. How did you find the teachings of Dr. Masters in the University of Sedona, and maybe even before? I'm not sure when you began. When did you start and connect with the teachings?
Well, I began the teachings or connecting with the teachings before Dr. Masters. However, I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to, get other insights. And actually, I was guided to it because I was wanting to go somewhere else, and I just had that in my mind. I had that intention, and I was working on the computer doing something else. And I don't know, that website came up for me, and I thought, oh, my gosh, this is it. And so I read Dr. Masters, all the things that he believed, and it was definitely what I believed. And so I just followed suit with that. I was very grateful because I enjoyed the way he encourages all of us to do our ministries with whatever gifts we have, the gifts we have been given. And so I've been here ever since.
How long ago was that about? When did you first discover that?
I'm probably going to say 2006 or 7, thereabouts.
Oh, so that was when he had the University in Sedona?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
I was wondering if that was when it was still teaching in Las Vegas or at the University of Sedona.
Right. In Las Vegas was the first time we met Dr. Masters, and the University of Sedona, yes.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, of course, many of the lectures which we broadcast on KUOSFM.com were done in Las Vegas, I believe, at that time. And there were some wonderful lectures and meditations in a group of people that were gathering there before he moved to Sedona. And for you, did you decide you wanted to be a minister first, and then, because I know you just completed your doctorate, didn't you?
Yes, actually my second doctorate. And, I did not set out, I didn't aspire to be a minister. That just kind of came through me, and actually I denied it for about 3 years because I had studied with the science of mind with Ernest Holmes first, and of course I looked at Joseph Murphy and Deepak Chopra, a whole bunch of these way showers, Wayne Dyer, and I had, like I said, I wanted to know more. I'm a very inquisitive person, and that's when I came across Dr. Masters, I knew that that's where I would become a minister and move forward with that and getting my doctorates. And so it's been an ongoing process for me, and I'm still doing it, and still working, still learning.
Well, you know what?
I'm always a student.
You know what, Regina, that never ends. I tell you, it's so funny because some people think they'll get, the answer, they'll get enlightenment, and then it's all over. But it's an ongoing process, and I think that could be why I love it so much, is because when you have that direct interconnection, and even as you go on and you do become a minister or you get your doctorate, I think each time you go a little deeper, you go a little further, you discover more and more, and you also feel a certain responsibility, I think, to walk your talk. It's so interesting because at many places people just go to a service or a church on Sunday, but then the rest of the week they're just not really involved in it. But I think in this practice it's an everyday thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, I'm one of these people who believes that we teach what we ourselves need to learn. And I was just saying that in my study group yesterday, how authentic living came about because I needed to learn how to be me. And so, yes, I totally agree with you. It is an everyday process. It's a process of growth, and as far as enlightenment, I think that's a continuing process as well. I mean, we continue to get these aha moments especially when we're doing deeper work, like working on your ministry or getting a doctorate. I mean, you're learning as you go, and I'm like you. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about life and whatever it will bring. Even through the challenging times, there's beauty in all of it, and it just excites me.
That's very true, and it is that connection. Even if you feel like you're starting to lose your enthusiasm and excitement, and that can happen. When you go back to the meditation, when you go back to your soul, when you go back to the inner connection, you realize that's also part of the process. That is kind of what can happen.
Yeah.
So now tell us about authentic living, because you brought that up, and I know that this is a very important subject. Was this what the subject of your doctorate was on, the latest one?
Well, it's authentic living always, but this is more on understanding the ego mind, and how we can heal through it or through them. Because I know part of authentic living is to be real, is to understand who we are authentically and accepting totally who we are. The things that we think we are and those things we think we are not. And I believe that being authentic or walking that path of authentic living helps us to get there. I know it is helping me still to move through that process. And so I was called to that ministry years ago, like back in 1995, when I was given the book, and perhaps you're familiar with it, Simple Abundance. I think it's by Sarah Van Bruneck or something like that. And the word authentic kept coming up for me, and so I followed that because while I knew of the word, I embraced it, and it became deeper the more I've been doing it. I've been doing that since 1995, and so authentic living really is about, well, it's such a process, but it starts with just really being honest with yourself, saying yes when you mean yes, saying no when you mean no, and then that's just the beginning. And then, of course, you go further into the depths of your soul, if you will, and overcome or it, sometimes it's so difficult for me to explain that because I'm still moving through the process. All I know is it goes deeper the more you study, the more you walk your talk, so to speak.
Well, it sounds like the way you're describing it, two things come to mind. And I've been doing this practice with, a deep devotion to that mystic connection to Christ and to Spirit, to lately Mother Mary. But I also realized for myself about, I think it was 1986, I began studying Zen. And I found for me, and that's, of course, one of the things I love, Regina, is I love the fact that in metaphysics, it's not like you only have to follow the Christian path. You only have to follow one path. But, of course, in metaphysics, you can embrace any path that's right for you. But in Zen, I really found, an amazing teaching because you were really experiencing the very moment. And it was very authentic when you let go of any chatter or mind and you just go into the quiet and experience every single moment. And as you learn that, you learn acceptance. But with authentic living, there's a lot of integrity involved and honesty, and that sure acts like a purifier and a real litmus test, it sounds like, in sorts. Have you found that for you?
Oh, absolutely. It's a challenge just to look at yourself and own who you are, number one, and move beyond what you were told you were or what you can't do. And, all the conditioning that we have all naturally as human beings absorbed, through our family beliefs and our belief systems, just society, all of those things that we have to look at that we've just accepted. And then at some point you say to yourself, well, does this really work for me? Does that really resonate with me? If so, why? If not, why not? It's really, it goes into that depth, and sometimes it really can get challenging where you're really questioning yourself. But one of the things that I encourage in my classes is to, while we're going through this process, is to be gentle with ourselves, because we're precious, we're beautiful, and I think that's something that we really need to embrace. And that's why I talk about the ego so much, because, there's so many thoughts about the ego, none of which are right or wrong. It's just the way we understand it. But for me, authentic living is about accepting our wholeness, accepting who we are in this moment, and then being open to whatever change we feel we need to make, if we so choose.
You brought up two words that really resonate with me there. Gentleness, which beautiful Michelle Baer, who is now the CEO of the University of Metaphysics, uses that term all the time. I don't know if you know Michelle very much, but this is one of her favorite words. She loves
I
that.
Love it.
And
I did not know that about her.
And when you said it is, because she understands that gentleness is almost like a grace, and I sometimes will try to power through things, and always in Dr. Master's teaching, he reminds us it's not our will but God's will, and that we need to be gentle, for sure, because if we're trying to push our way through something, we could really, especially I think in authentic living, you might really hit some very heavy brick walls, which could be something inside yourself that you haven't uncovered yet. So it really is quite a deep process, because you do go to the depths of things inside, sometimes even the shadow realms of things in you that you may have covered. Have you had to experience that by discovering who you really are? Did you have to really unpeel and go into the depths of your whole self?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you hit that right on the nose about we do have to visit that shadow side and yet recognize that there is beauty in there. I used to be a person that would say, oh, this is negative, that is negative. But, I've come to recognize that what we deem as negative, if we really look at it, there is a message in what we think is negative. There's a message in there. There's something for us to get. And it all boils down to self-love. I spoke about that yesterday at the study group, love and self-love, how important it is to love ourselves and the process of that. I mean, it's easy to say I love myself, but there's a process in our everyday life. How we relate to ourselves really influences and translates into how we relate to other people and the world.
It's so true, and I do this litmus test sometimes, Regina, and I've been doing it for years, and I say, I am loved, I am lovable, and I am loving. And between those three big statements, there's usually one that I don't necessarily really, really believe, and then I know that's the one that I need to do some work on, do I really believe that I am lovable? That comes up for me a lot. Do I really believe that I am loved, And it's funny, for me, I always believe God loves me, and I always love God. But sometimes I wonder if I'm lovable to other people. So that's a deep one, And if I'm really loving to other people.
Right. And, the ironic thing is sometimes we can be more loving to other people than we are to ourselves. That's one of the first things that I recognized about myself when I started Authentic Living, was that I needed to become my own best friend. Because if one of my friends would make a mistake or feel bad about something,